Compel the mind autonomous.
A decade ago, the leaders of the tech industry testified under oath that artificial intelligence would liberate us from daily drudgery. They painted a picture of a frictionless society where automated systems seamlessly optimized every aspect of human life. Instead, you wake up at 6:12 in the morning because the electricity grid jumps to surge pricing at 6:30 a.m. sharp. We never got the utopian version 1.0 of AI salvation. What we actually built is a hyper-commodified reality known as the Plural grind. The systems running our lives have reached a very specific plateau. They are exactly smart enough to maximize your inconvenience for profit, but completely incapable of actually talking to one another to get a task done. To see how the promise of ultimate convenience devolved into a daily bureaucratic nightmare, we have to pull apart what we call the architecture of friction, layer by layer. The first layer is entirely physical. Every morning begins with the micro-math of energy rationing. You preheat the shower and brew coffee pulling strictly from last night's cheap battery storage. You do this locally because the cloud is no longer the default. International data border taxes made offshore server farms a massive financial liability. We regressed right back to local, home-based processing to avoid the fees. And that local system is constantly interrupted. When the house flips to the neighborhood microgrid, the utility companies aggressively throttle your bandwidth and power to protect the local grid. If you're lucky, you get 1 paid hour a day of priority throughput. That gives you 60 minutes of clean bandwidth and the brief illusion of control, totally free from grid stabilization throttling. At the hardware level, sustainability is no longer a moral choice you make at the grocery store. It is a punitive, automated line item that taxes your daily existence. Once you get past the physical hardware, you hit the corporate software layer. We call this the interop war. Competing tech ecosystems actively refuse to share memory, context, or communicate with each other. A routine morning involves 3 different companies' agent swarms failing to connect. A proprietary Microsoft corporate fleet will simply reject a handshake with a client's Linux-based open source model. Linux is a free, decentralized operating system, making it the exact opposite of a walled corporate garden. Then you hit the legal friction. Massive environmental, social, and governance, or ESG, clearance rules passed in 2029 automatically block routine global data transfers. You have to sign manual attestations just to prove an unvetted AI didn't glance at a client's sales data. But the real bureaucratic wall happens in meetings. Half the seats are filled by ghost profiles. These are AI avatars trained entirely on a human executive's past decision history, sent to attend so no actual human has to take accountability. An AI CFO ghost trained purely on 3 years of its human counterpart's recession-era anxiety will automatically deny a critical budget request for a localized Southeast Asian market rollout. It just repeats recommendation deny over and over. The corporate intelligence we built didn't eliminate bureaucracy. It perfectly simulated human risk aversion, creating an automated wall of caution that actively blocks progress. Which brings us to the user experience layer and the people actually trying to do the work. The modern workforce is cognitively broke. They are completely exhausted from managing competing swarms of AI agents at home and at the office. Workers beg for a simple, single-button interface to just execute tasks, but executives refuse to build it because simplifying the tool destroys the complex data harvesting metrics they need to prop up their quarterly valuations. This diagram illustrates the inevitable result: shadow AI. Employees simply route around the heavily optimized, surveillance-heavy corporate tech stack, finding unmonitored backdoor pathways just to get their actual work done. Pushing back against the structure carries severe stakes. Your professional reputation is tracked through an accountability score. If you step out of line, that score drops, acting as literal collateral against your career. In the UX layer, the dynamic has completely flipped. The software is no longer designed to help the worker. The worker is designed to feed the software's data siphon. All of this friction exacts a massive human toll, starting right at the bottom of the corporate ladder. The traditional learn by doing entry-level job is completely dead. The easy tasks are gone. The new entry-level reality is a verification factory. Junior workers spend their entire days doing nothing but babysitting artificial intelligence models, waiting for them to hallucinate, which is when an AI confidently presents false or invented information as fact. These hallucinations happen constantly because the models are trapped in a feedback loop. They eat their own synthetic computer-generated data, and the compounding errors cause the logic to rapidly degrade and collapse into nonsense. This creates a brutal catch-22 for a 23-year-old worker. They aren't hired to produce any original output. They are hired strictly to supervise the machine and absorb the legal liability when it inevitably lies. We reached a point where human beings are no longer valued for their creativity or productivity. Their primary utility is serving as a legal shield for a broken algorithm. By 5 p.m., the daily rationing forces a hard stop. You physically shut down your laptops, not out of discipline, but because your daily carbon credits are over the limit, and keeping them on costs extra. The old human habit of keeping a screen open just in case, fueled by work anxiety, hasn't disappeared. It has simply been priced out of existence by strict energy limits and bandwidth rationing. Before everything goes dark, you do one final, purely human thing. You open an ancient, offline notes app, one that isn't monitored, one that can't report your feelings to a corporate dashboard, and you write a single, unlogged sentence. True human agency in the AI age doesn't look like a grand sci-fi war against the machines. It looks like a closed laptop, and finding a quiet, untracked moment where the system isn't looking.
Pseudo-spawn agentic.